Welcome back to Switch Stars, my name's Luke, and today on the channel I'm bringing you a review for Popplings, a fun little tile matching puzzle game inspired by the classic puzzle games of yesteryear, such as Magical Drop and Super Puzzle Fire. Now, I've always been a fan of these kind of games, they're usually great time fillers, addictive as hell, and Super Puzzle Fighter was and still is my all-time favourite. But how does Popplings stand up against the big dogs, and is it worth your time and cash? Well, drop a like, subscribe for more Nintendo Switch reviews and content, and let's find out. So rather surprisingly, unlike most tile matching puzzle games, Popplings actually comes with a story delivered via the game's story mode, and this one follows the journey of Pip, Alex, vest-toting bully Duns and several other characters as they rediscover the art of Poppling fighting, an ancient way to resolve conflicts which has long been forgotten. Pip, the fat little pink Kirby-like character, is from the realm of the Popplings and the last known living Poppling, and has seen it his or her duty to venture to Earth and interject in any disagreement they see fit, forcing each party to settle their quabble with a game of Popplings. Now, the story itself, along with the rest of the game, was written and developed almost entirely by one person, that being Philip Whitehall of Spidersaw, and while the narrative is admittedly a little bit all over the place, it acts as a good way to introduce players to each of the characters and their unique abilities, though I will say that despite them having distinct appearances, due to there being no name tags above the dialogue boxes, you'll likely forget the names after each encounter. The presentation of the storyline is also a little bit lackluster, with it being entirely dialogue box based and there being random background images instead of any kind of environments, which would have really helped sell the story and make it a little more immersive. But on the whole, it's not too bad. It acts more like an enhanced tutorial than a deep and meaningful plotline, but there is some amusing dialogue to be had and the characters are likeable, if not a little zany. Now, when I play a classic puzzle game, I'm looking for two things. Firstly, simplicity. The puzzle mechanics have to be simple enough to pick up and play, but have enough depth to allow you to strategize and improve your game. And secondly, that retro aesthetic. The game has to look and feel like a classic puzzle game, and thankfully for the most part, Popplings delivers on both fronts. Now, the game comes with 3 game modes, the first being Story Mode, which I've already talked about, and the other 2 being Arcade and Puzzle Mode. Arcade is your standard one-on-one battle against either computer-controlled opponents of various difficulties or another player, and when starting this mode you first get to pick your character. As I alluded to, each of them comes with their own special abilities, which we'll get onto in a moment, but the battles themselves are the first to 2 wins, after which you're kicked back to the main menu, and I would have preferred to have had to fight through all of the CPU opponents, but it is what it is. Now, when it comes to the mechanics in this one, the game combines elements from several classic puzzle games, including Magical Drop, Super Puzzle Fire, Puyo and Columns, and the objective is to simply avoid letting your board fill up with Popplings, which will result in a loss, and fill your opponent's board up in order to win. Much like Magical Drop, Popplings are fired into your board from the bottom of the screen, but instead of picking them up and moving them from the play area, they're provided to you at random in pairs, with you able to hold one of them for later use. In order to clear your Popplings, you need to line up 3 in a row, either vertically, horizontally or diagonally, but Popplings come in one of 5 flavours, all with nicely drawn faces on them, which reminded me a little bit of Puzzle Bobble and I actually rather liked. Now, each Poppling you pop will fill up a bar above your opponent's play area, and after the next move will cause a bunch of them to drop at random into it, kind of like Super Puzzle Fire without the countdown mechanic. Like other puzzle games, you're able to set up patterns to create cascading chains of attacks, which does allow for some strategic placement of Popplings and makes attacks more powerful, dropping more onto your opponent, though having so many angles to work with does make these a little more difficult to set up and predict the outcome of, and I often found that firing a bunch of them at random caused unintentional chains, which sometimes actually resulted in me winning the battle without even trying. Overall though, these mechanics work well to give the game that tug of war feel to it, with you trading Popplings back and forth, though unfortunately you can't see exactly where they're going to drop into the play area, which does cause some issues when you're trying to play quickly, as Popplings often dropped exactly where I was about to fire mine to, and this meant it was a lot harder to actually strategise and forward plan my moves. Now, in addition to raining Popplings down on your opponent, destroying them also builds a second bar, your special bar, and once filled you're able to trigger this, which provides a variety of effects depending on your character. Some destroy all Popplings of one colour at random, others take out chunks of Popplings from the play area or shift them around to create matches, but they add some decent variety and can really help to get you out of a pinch. One of my favourite strategies was to build up my special meter and then fill my screen with Popplings before activating it, which was a very cheesy way to win battles, and unless you play on hard mode, the computer AI isn't particularly challenging, which makes these strats even more effective. So on the whole, the difficulty level is pretty tame, but like other puzzle games, I really feel like this one is meant to be played against other human players to get the most out of the mechanics and give yourself more of a fair challenge. Now the game's final mode is Puzzle, and as you'd expect, this one sees you trying to clear your board of Popplings using a series of pre-selected Poppling colours, which often requires you to create chains to beat it within the move count. These puzzles start off relatively trivial but do get a lot more tricky the further you get into them, and while the difficulty is occasionally a little bit inconsistent from one puzzle to the next, puzzle mode offers a little more bang for your buck, and there's also a puzzle creator allowing you to put together your own puzzle levels for others to try and beat. One bigger mission with Popplings though is online multiplayer, which in a day and age where friends no longer get together for a bit of couch co-op multiplayer, I feel is really necessary for the longevity of these kind of games. But on the whole, I had a fun time playing this one, and it's actually a really well put together puzzle game, and the developer can be proud of his work with this one. So like I said, the game was pretty much developed by one guy, but he did have some help when it came to the character designs, animations and interfaces, and I'd say that whilst relatively simple, they all look pretty decent and have that classic retro vibe to them. I'm not entirely sure why the decision was made to have random pixelated images in the background. I assume it was either due to money constraints, or more likely they were an attempt to replicate those found in the Puzzle Bobble games, but for me they didn't quite work unfortunately, and I think the images of landscapes would have worked better rather than just random bridges or steam trains. When it comes to the audio, whilst simple, I thought that the dev did a good job. Again, the sound effects have that retro feel to them and fit the gameplay nicely, and the game's music has that upbeat tone to it, which is generally just pretty pleasant to play along to. So on the whole, not bad on the audio and visual front. So in conclusion then, I've played quite a few different puzzle games on the Switch, and when it comes to the indie variety, Popplings is definitely up there amongst the best in my opinion. While it may not have quite the level of polish and quality to contend with its forefathers, there's a really nice mixture of mechanics with this one, and the dev has done a really good job of blending them all together to create a kind of Franken-puzzle which plays well and pays homage to the classics whilst also doing its own thing. Admittedly, I do have a few minor gripes when it comes to the mechanics, mainly with the whole forward planning thing and finding it quite difficult to set up my board without accidentally causing chain reactions, but overall a really enjoyable little puzzle game and one which I could easily fill some hours with whilst travelling. And so when it comes to a rating, I'm going to be giving Popplings 3 out of 5 stars. If you enjoy classic puzzle games and are in the market for a modern spin on them, which keeps things simple but familiar, then I highly recommend giving Popplings a go, especially at its very reasonable $5 asking price. And with that said, are you a fan of classic puzzle games? Will you be picking this one up? And what other similar games can you recommend picking up? Let me know down in the comments section below. As always though, drop a like if this review helped you out. Consider subscribing if you're looking for more Nintendo Switch reviews and content. And until next time, thank you all once again for watching, take care of yourselves, and game on.